amazing thing about being in that season where the flywheel is finally starting to kick in and you're thinking like, dude, I think we're actually doing this. Well, this is what I call the transition. And I want everybody to understand this in creativity. It's like, first you set out to see if you can do it. And then you decide to go all in. But even in that process, you then have to move and graduate to the next version, which is this. This is the whole idea of going from amateur to pro. And amateur to pro basically says, I can play and I can kind of play at the big guys, but actually I'm gonna make a career out of this. I'm gonna actually make this thing work. It almost feels like, the 20s were all about, could I prove to myself that I can paint that good? Could I prove to myself that I could do a job for that much? Could I prove that I could land a client that big? And you're like kind of hunting, and you as an entrepreneur and as a creative, you're just like, oh, sick. Like I finally got, a $20,000 job, or, that client who's super awesome. And that all started to take place. But at this point, this is where things really started to hit a pinnacle. And here's why. The moment that I made a decision to go from amateur to pro and said, I'm going all in, there were key factors that I want you to hear about on this step, because you're gonna see where success really started to hit beyond, I'm just a hobbyist, I'm just trying this. And what that means is like, I've proven this, and this. Like you've got all of these things that you've done, but then it has to become a sequence. Then it has to become a model. Then it has to become pricing, tiers, offers. What does a framework look like that if somebody was to walk in your door and say, hey, I want to do something with you, you're like, oh yeah, no, perfect. You're going to fill out this form. Here's our criteria. Here's how we do contracts. Here's how we do our agreements. Here's how we do our pricing models from low, medium, and high. Tell me a little bit more. You have a negotiation process. You have pitch decks. You have a way to land clients. You have an ability to paint vision and strategy. Like I had to get my house in order. Most artists don't have that framework. They don't have a ladder. They don't have a low, medium, and high, extra high, super insane. They can't tell you all the ways that you can work with them. That's going from amateur to pro. That's when you're a brand. And that's when you start to take things very, very seriously, because you take your work seriously, your outcomes seriously, and your goals, what you want, seriously. You see how that, like, it's not the tail wagging the dog. It's like, I've established my goals. I know what I want. And if I want to lead a radical life of generosity and give and use generosity as a big part of my life, it's hard to do that broke. If you want to raise and go from 100,000 to $1 million a year, that's a different criteria and a set of ways of thinking, structure, guidelines, boundaries on yourself. And most artists and creative entrepreneurs don't possess them. They don't come out of the womb that way. Those have to be learned. Those have to be built. Hence why I created books and systems and all that around it. So here's what that looked like for me. What did that mean? Well, started a publishing company. Publishing company says I'm a legit publishing company, or open a corporation to do that. And in that corporation, I said, I'm going to publish fine art, posters, prints, limited edition prints, licensing, wholesale division. I'm going to create a full ecosystem around art publishing. And then soon, right along that, I created another company. I took the winnings from all the art, okay, that was already currently happening, converted them into a serious brand, as opposed to I'm a work for hire guy. I'm like, no, it's officially a brand. And brokering, leveraging other people's expertise, all of that, the stuff with Lexus and all those clients. But then I formed another publishing company. What does that mean? Online publishing. The digital information market is $1 trillion business. And I made a decision that one of the smartest things that I could package and duplicate myself was mentoring, coaching, consulting, advising. 4 brand new products that never existed before. How could I take those things, advising, consulting, coaching, products, right? Turn them into products based on what I knew, based on what I experienced, based on what I'd gone through, how to price, everything that I'm talking about, how to price, how to build an ecosystem, how to duplicate yourself, how to set up business structures, what to create. how to build tiers, how to price your work, how to build in margins, how to price originals, how many a year to paint, how many assets are you gonna make? Like all of that could be packaged into new products and sold online. So that became a whole brand new arm of my business that became online masterclasses, courses, consulting, coaching. This is when my business went from 6 figures up to 7 figures and more. And the reason why that happened was I was able to duplicate myself from having to be in a place in person with somebody serving them. I could be serving a guy in Belgium, he's watching a course online and he's getting the help that he needs, but he might be able to say, oh dude, I love what I learned on this, but can you help me with this? Can I jump on a session with you? Or can I join your group coaching? Or can we do an engagement, right? But then what started to happen, this is where it got crazy. This is where business then went kaboom again, was when I had other companies, other ministries, other brands go, what you built for yourself, we want. And I went, oh my goodness. Now I'm going to create a third, and that's an agency. I had an art publishing company, an information publishing company, and now an agency. And this agency basically says I'm going to create websites, funnels, landing pages, products, everything I built for myself, everything, book publishing, self-publishing, book distribution. I'm going to help others create those ecosystems because they're like, dude, you went from here to here. Can you just help us with this framework? So the advisory, consulting, and coaching actually helped build the agency. And the agency was a way that I could then create a framework and a system that helps people do it. It's a plug and play system, and it's really easy, it's fun, and it's simple, but it's sophisticated. But the benefit of that is this. If I have a person walk in the door, and you might be thinking this too, you're starting to see yourself differently. You might be even thinking, dude, I've got all this gold lying around me that I could totally maximize and leverage and turn into products. And my answer to you is yes. The smartest thing that you can do, it's part of the Profitable Artist Framework, is this. You need to leverage your wisdom. And you need to package it, you need to sell it, but the one thing that they're going to look for is this, is what you're selling, what you do, like you're a practitioner still, and prove to me in what you've done. And so that's really important. So if you look back on why it's so important, my 20s are so important because I was building the case. I was the case study of everything that I learned to then package and say, hey, you can learn it. I'll show you how to do it yourself. And I can coach you through that process, whether you're a brand, whether you're a team. And so sometimes I'm sitting in a room with a team, running them through a discovery day, showing them what's possible, giving them vision and brand strategy. That's a product. I can sometimes sit down with an individual over an hour and a half and say, hey, let's take your vital signs, which is one of my products, help them understand where their heart comes alive and their time and their money and their talent. How do we maximize that, right? So these are all ways that I realized, oh my gosh, I thought it was going to be painting a mural and painting a car, to then creating a publishing company, to then creating an agency, and then creating an information education line. It became a full-blown brand, right? Why is this important? The reason why this is important is because God has got you in a process this whole time, and you probably don't realize it. And the greatest asset in that entire process is your story. And your story is one of your greatest assets to propel all of these brands and helping people. And I'll come back to that in just a minute because there's a big part of that really hit in the flywheel. Disney's a big part of that. But the greatest masterpiece, it's not in the art, it's in Chantel. My wife coming into my life, right around 30, 31, she's a hair designer. She's working down here in Newport Beach as a hair colorist, part owner in some salons. We meet at a nightclub. I'm airbrushing go-go dancers. And the reason why that's an important time for me is because of this. Remember when I said I was so self-consumed and I was just like business as an identity, false idols, building and self-made and all that. I just got sick of myself and I went into therapy like I told you. But then there was a 2-year period where I just took a break off of all relationships. I'm going to focus on me. And my mentor said this. He's like, You're busy. You got plenty going on. Keep working. But if you get healthy, you're going to attract a healthy woman. Chantel walked up to me. She came up to me. I actually saw her. I liked her. I gave her a lot of free swag and, I let her know that I thought she was awesome. But she came up to me after backstage and she's like, I thought I should meet you. And my friend told me that I should meet you if I have a chance. And next day was Father's Day. And what's really crazy is it's like, as I'm filming this, like this time of year is actually when we met. So this is like the week of this, like an anniversary. And so the next day was Father's Day. And then I'm like, hey, I got to return gear to LA and you want to drive with me? And we turned it into world's longest date. We went to Trader Vic's in Beverly Hills, went down to Newport and rode around in a boat, then went and saw Tarzan, the movie. And, that was when the Lord sent me a rescue. And the amazing thing about Chantel is that she didn't need anything. And for the first time, I'm hanging out with a girl that didn't need a thing from me. I didn't need to fix her. I found all my validation in fixing people because I didn't want to have to focus on myself. But when you finally step and focus on yourself and work on yourself and fall in love with the Lord and fall in love with yourself, that's when things really make a difference to where you can then get into a healthy state. And that's when Chantel came in. Now, I really want you to see in the timeline when Chantel came in was also when I really created the publishing company. And the night that I really got the most burnout, right as we knew each other and we were recording and all that kind of stuff, I hit a wall. And it was really hard on the creative side. And I need you to understand this because this is going to happen. You're going to have a crisis. And the crisis is the dark night of the soul. And the crisis of the dark night of the soul says, I got this amazing woman. I've got this amazing business. But the crisis basically says this, being about 28, 30 years old, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with the rest of my life in this creativity. What am I supposed to paint? I had this like massive looming question, but I didn't know, or I should say this, I felt like there was this massive looming question. I didn't know what the answer was, but I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I go down to the beach, crying my eyes out. It's dark. I'm listening to my headphones. And I feel the Lord basically laying on my heart while I'm going through therapy and all that kind of stuff. And this is just before Chantel. He goes, I want you to go home and paint your journal. I'm like, what? Here I am, selling, doing all this work for hire, making great money, thinking that it's the top of the world. But the problem was I got to the top of the ladder of success and realized it was against the wrong building. And in this part of the story and my creativity and building a brand, I lost myself in the midst of it. And he said, take all the stuff that you've written about your therapy and everything that you've gone through, and I want you to display that through work. And I did. I obeyed. I went home, painted 6 originals. Guy pulls up in a Lamborghini two weeks later. And at the time, I was living in a warehouse, living in a loft, and painting in that warehouse. And then next door, I finally got that one. I turned it into a restoration hardware, show ready, beautiful gallery, water fountains, loft, music, candles, lighting, just gorgeous, dialed. That Lamborghini rolls up, he walks in, he sees all those angels that I painted from my journal. And he's like, these are crazy, dude, how much? And at the time I was like, I don't know, $1,200, $2,400 at the time. I'm like, 12.5 each. Just felt it on my heart from the Lord, like, hey, 12.5 each. He's like, I'll take those 4. And I'm like, he hands me 50 grand. And I'm like, this guy just bought the worst part of my life. So here's what I want you to understand in this note here. 1, your story is your greatest asset. People always wonder, what should I paint? Your flippin' story. Why? Because people, 1, it's true. 2, people are going to see themselves in your work through your story. They're going to go, dude, I get it. Why do you think people connect with music? I'm playing what's in my heart. And you're like, that's in my heart. That's why I love that song. The same thing with creativity. So one of the greatest assets that are going to make your brand is your actual story. So stop trying to mimic somebody. Anything I want you to walk away with is this. Don't paint somebody else's story. It's not yours. Paint yours. And do it in a unique, clever way that onboards people to it. Your work is going to be used to heal people, to help people, to propel even clients, right? So all that to say, now I know what to paint. Chantel comes into my life. Now here's what I think is interesting. God doesn't leave any meat off the bone. He literally goes all the way back through my past, all the way 20s, all the way to the wound, which showed up in those paintings. Watch the way God works. My wound from my dad, all the turmoil, everything in my 20s, all the therapy, into the pages, take the pages, paint the paintings, get the money, Then all of a sudden, I get Disney saying, hey, we like those angels. Can you create our characters in that style? What would have happened if I never painted those paintings? What would have happened if I never went to the journal? What would have happened if I never went to my trauma? What would have happened if I never went into therapy? None of it would have happened. Do you realize the balls and courage and determination it takes to face that crud? I mean, the key of your success as a creative lies in your deepest fears and wounds. And if you want to strike gold as to what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to paint, it's there, dude. It's there in the worst. My question is, do you have the balls? Do you have the courage? Do you have the guts to go and tell the world about it? So Chantel comes in as the greatest gift in this moment. Publishing is starting to take off. Disney says, dude, these are cool. I'd love it. And one of our dearest friends, Deanne, who brought me in and says, hey, we're launching this new park, Disney California Adventure. And there's a gallery in there, and we'd love to do a showcase of a local artist, here in our backyard in Orange County. Paint 5, 6 originals, and they all blow out like within the first 14 days. And everybody, including Disney, is like, what is going on? And it was such a blessing, because I'm like, are you kidding me right now? And then we had one phone call, and this one phone call only changed the game. And that was, we want to do more. And the decision that I made as a vendor, as a publisher, because I set up the publishing company, put me in a position to create a partnership with Disney that allowed for us 20 years later to still have an amazing flywheel of publishing images, doing events, loving with guests. Like, it's just unbelievable. And I mean, yeah, there could be an entire thing just on the Disney aspect of it, but it's still going. It's been unbelievable. But I've taken all the winnings from that to do something much greater. And this is when Chantel and I had the kids. We had Noah. He came into our life. Griffin came into our life. Griffin's older. She's our daughter. She's now 21, probably when this airs. Noah is 19. Noah with special needs on the autism spectrum. That became a big part of our life. But the moving forward basically says this: the redefining of success based on this new framework and ecosystem that I had created from everything in the last 25, 30 years. How can I be a system that creates a brand, creates sales, an ecosystem that is self-sustaining, duplicate myself to be in numerous places at once, passive income? One of the most exciting things, yes, the Disney stuff was great. Yes, Chantel came in, all the publishing was happening. We had these kids. We moved in the warehouse for just a little bit. We wanted to buy a house. We got a house. That house was wonderful. And as the kids were growing, in those first few years, when we're growing a family, I'm like, oh, Lord, I am so thankful. I'm so stoked. All of these jobs have been happening. We're doing the tattoo conventions. We're doing this publishing. We're doing the Disney events. Products are starting to come out. Courses are starting to happen. Like, all this was working, right? So we're like, okay, let's be wise with our investments. We're going to take, winnings out of this first house. We're going to go buy another property. So we bought one out in Palm Springs, and we bought another one out in Inland Empire. We built our dream home, a 4,000 square foot place. Everything's going great. Chantel's stuff is going well at the salon in Newport. And what's interesting is the recession was right around the corner. We didn't know it. But there was a part of me that said, success is good, but I felt empty. I felt content, but never satisfied. And you got to remember, when you're 35, 38 years old, doing it since you were 16, you're a little tired. And not that you need a break. Like, trust me, I'm not the kind of guy that needs to go escape from this life. It's an unbelievable life. Like, my favorite place to hang is my house. Like, I don't need to go to Bora Bora, right? I don't need to escape. Like, this doesn't suck. This is amazing because it's by design, right? But success has a price if it's not at the right target. And I'm like, great, another bigger client, great. More sales, great. Like, again, the consumption, you're like becoming a glutton of the blessing. This whole relationship that I had with God was basically, hey, I love you, bless my business. Bless my business, bless my business. And I wasn't tapping into what grace really, operating from the grace that he had given me. So there was a crisis of faith. It was like, do you really do believe? And the way that got revealed was, things got really gnarly when the recession hit. Things got really, really gnarly. We had no idea what was around the corner. Here we are, 4 or 5 properties, 3 companies, plus hers, 4, raising a special needs child. Help raising him as well with my stepmom. Great revenue, but again, overly leveraged, but just feeling like the water line kept on raising, and like, when it starts tapping your nose and you're trying to take a breath in and some water comes in, it gets a little scary. And you're starting to think to yourself, like, uh-oh, like, have I gone a little too far? Well, there's a tipping point that came up. And that tipping point is what sent us over the edge, but in a good way. And looking back now, it's the greatest thing that ever happened. But that was our opportunity to launch into true significance, not just success. I'll unpack what that looks like.